What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. In this episode, the Supreme Court with some major decisions that might be on the horizon and Congress potentially voting to maybe stop them. Major things here. We'll go over that in this video. Voting coming this week. Also, some major things here. Congress trying to save you some money, hundreds to thousands of dollars here. We'll go over in this video as well. Also, there's a deadline that may affect you for $750 that the deadline's coming up here in a few days. That may affect some, well, a lot of people here as well. We got a lot of different things to go over in this video, so let's jump right in. Here we go. Also, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure to click the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on new videos. I will keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country. And if you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us down below. Here we go. Okay, first up, House Democrats are touting a bill to add 4 seats to the Supreme Court, also known as packing the court. This comes as a lot of people upset with the Republican majority Supreme Court that has just overturned Roe v. Wade and are next potentially looking at maybe even banning same-sex marriage and taking rights away from millions and millions of Americans here in this country, and maybe even banning contraception, also known as birth control. As you can see here in this headline from Politico, Judge Clarence Thomas, the most right-leaning Republican on the court, says the Supreme Court should reconsider the rulings on contraception and same-sex marriage. Reconsider basically means that they should overturn them because they're legal now. So the only other thing to reconsider would be make them not legal. So you can let me know your thoughts here on this. This would basically be going back decades and decades and decades ago. You can see women all across the country with protesting with tape over their mouth saying, we're basically losing our voice here. Yeah, you can let me know your thoughts here in the comment section. But some House Democrats are touting a bill to add 4 seats to the Supreme Court. They could do this if they got enough votes. If the all the Democrats in the Senate went for it, they could add 4 seats to the Supreme Court, known as packing the court, which they then could add 4 seats to the Supreme Court and then take over the majority of the Supreme Court. Some Democrats think this is fair because Republican leader Mitch McConnell basically, well, what they say is that he kind of stole some seats from them when they didn't let them confirm their Supreme Court justice seat in the last year of Obama's term, when Mitch McConnell basically said he was not going to let them confirm their Supreme Court justice for the whole last year of the Biden's presidency. And he just blocked it. He said, no, I'm not going to let you confirm a Supreme Court justice in the last year of a presidency. And then Trump became president the next year. And then in the last year of Trump's presidency, Mitch McConnell pushed through Amy Coney Barrett anyways within literally like the last 2 or 3 months of his presidency to push through basically 2 justices there. One that would have went to Obama there at the end of his term, and the one that, if you go by Mitch McConnell's standard, that you shouldn't put a Supreme Court justice through at the end, in the final year of a presidency, right before an election, what Mitch McConnell says, you shouldn't do that. Well, Mitch McConnell did it anyways within the last 2 to 3 months. double standards at its finest, right? Politics, right? There's another seat, and that's basically the difference. If you take away the 2 seats from the Republicans and maybe give those 2 seats to Democrats, that's the difference in the Supreme Court. So you can let me know your thoughts here, whether or not they should do this or not. The problem with doing this, because again, I'm not from either party, is that if Republicans take over the political parties here in the future, like the Senate or so, then Republicans could basically pack the court in the future as well, and so on and so forth going forward. So yeah, that's kind of the problem here. Is are we going to just pack the Supreme Court over and over and over and expand it? Is packing the Supreme Court is basically adding more Supreme Court justices to expand it to take over the majority. So that's kind of the issue with that. The other issue I feel, I've seen a lot of comments here in the comments section, is term limits. We see term limits. Presidents have a 4-year or 8-year term limit. And I think a lot of people have found that system seems to work pretty well. Every 4 years, you get to revote on a president, and you have a max of 8 years. Okay, but there's not term limits for Senate or House members. They do get revoted on though. There is that. But the problem with Supreme Court justices, one, they're not even voted on by the people per se. And two, not only are they not voted on by the people, they're elected by, or they're nominated by a president, and then the Senate confirms them. So the people don't actually get a direct vote at all. The regular people, besides the Senate, 50 people, right? They're not revoted on every few years. So if you don't agree with what the Supreme Court just did per se, or if the majority of people don't agree, you can't vote them out. Now, they can impeach a Supreme Court justice, but it's difficult to do. It's difficult to do. To impeach a Supreme Court justice, you can see this from Politico here. This is an opinion piece. How to impeach a Supreme Court justice. It has never been done successfully all the way, but lawmakers should investigate whether Clarence Thomas's behavior merits an attempt, because he basically lied when he was during his confirmation, what he said about Roe v. Wade, and then he overturned it. He said that, and you could go and look at what he said during his confirmation speech. But so you can see here, over the country's history, 15 federal judges, not Supreme Court judges, but federal judges, have been impeached. 8 have been removed from office. Okay, so impeached and then removed from office. And others have resigned in the wake of scandal instead. Okay? Remember, impeached and then resigned or removed from office, 2 different things. Just like former President Donald Trump was impeached in the House, but then he didn't get removed from office because the Senate didn't confirm it, right? Okay, just same thing with Bill Clinton, right? Unlike presidents, there is an ample precedence for firing federal judges via impeachment. Though no Supreme Court judges have ever been removed this way, there have been 2 attempts. So the Democrats are looking into this right now, although it's very hard to do. It's very hard to do. The only Supreme Court justice to be successfully impeached was Samuel Chase in 1804 on charges of arbitrary and oppressive conduct during trials. At that point, the Supreme Court conducted trials. It no longer does. But the Senate acquitted him. So he was impeached, but in the House, but the Senate acquitted him. So same thing like former President Donald Trump was impeached in the House, but the Senate acquitted him. Same thing with Bill Clinton. Okay, in 1969, after President Lyndon B. Johnson nominated him to replace Earl Warren as the Chief Justice, Associate Justice Abe resigned from the court under threat of impeachment. So as you can see here, it's difficult to do, and the votes probably aren't there in the Senate because it's a 50-50 Senate, there's probably not Republicans that would vote to impeach a Republican justice. Yeah. So you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Not that I'm leaning either way. I'm just kind of giving you guys the details. The House is going to vote here this week on legislation protecting marriage equality after Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas said the Supreme Court should reconsider gay marriage decision after this has been legal for many years now. It really does feel like um, the Supreme Court is trying to take away a lot of rights, um, like women's choice, um, gay marriage now, contraception, birth control, and I mean, even a lot of women, even in our comment section, is saying, "What next? Are they going to take away women's right to vote?" In fact, I'll let you see here this article here. Ted Cruz slammed for saying Supreme Court was wrong to legalize gay marriage. Ted Cruz says, not on my watch. Here's what Texas Senator Ted Cruz said. Let me know your thoughts on this.
If you were in this role as an advocate and Obergefell was in front of the Supreme Court again in some way, what would be the vulnerability of this case? What would be the argument against this case or the argument for overturning it?
So look, Obergefell, like Roe versus Wade, ignored 2 centuries of our nation's history. Marriage was always an issue that was left to the states. We saw states before Obergefell that were moving. Some states were moving to allow gay marriage. Other states were moving to allow civil partnerships. There were different standards that the states were adopting. And had the court not ruled in Obergefell, the democratic process would have continued to operate, that if you believed gay marriage was a good idea, the way the Constitution set up for you to advance that position is to convince your fellow citizens. And if you succeeded in convincing your fellow citizens, then your state would change the laws to reflect those views. In Obergefell, the court said, no, we know better than you guys do, and now every state must sanction and permit gay marriage. I think that decision was clearly wrong when it was decided.
Yeah, so the problem with pointing to the Constitution here when it comes to things like, same-sex marriage, things like abortion, medical procedures of modern day, things like women's rights, women voting. Back then, when the Constitution was written, none of those things were legal. I mean, there was slavery back then. Women weren't allowed to vote. There wasn't women's rights. There wasn't really even abortion. They didn't even have modern medicine. You can't really look at the Constitution for these type of modern day things. There wasn't gay marriage. It wasn't even a thing. It's like saying, let's look at the Constitution for what it says about the internet. Let's look at the Constitution for what it says about iPhones. Let's look at the Constitution for what it says about the SNAP program. What does the Constitution say about stimulus? What does the Constitution say about computers? What does the Constitution say about women voting? Oh, it says that women voting is not allowed? Well, we should go with what the Constitution says. Should we not allow women to vote? I mean, if we go with what the Constitution says from 200 and some years ago, I mean, do you see the problem here? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm an American through and through. I mean, I got flags literally in my office. I'm not an immigrant, okay? I've lived in America my whole life. My family's lived in America my whole life. My parents lived in America my whole life. I'm as American as I can get, right? But you got to admit, the Constitution's a little bit old. It's a little bit outdated. If we point to the Constitution for like the be-all, end-all of everything, women wouldn't be allowed to vote. Women wouldn't be allowed to say anything. Like we gotta, it's outdated. Like we have to look at today's modern society and say, well, it's a little bit different today. I mean, the next thing I'm going to talk about here is like they want to do IRS free file so that you can file your taxes for free online and stuff. And these TurboTax filing softwares won't charge you money. You think the Constitution talks about that? Do you think the Constitution covers like software companies from charging you money and them making billions? No. No, the Constitution didn't cover any of that stuff. So you got to like really kind of understand the Constitution at this point should be like a concept. It should be like a concept. So for example, the Constitution is still relevant when it comes to like the right to bear arms, the right to free speech. Okay. So for example, the right to bear arms, I personally believe we should have the right to bear arms within limits. Here's where the perfect example comes to within reach. Okay. We've kind of struggled with the right to free speech for a while. And the Supreme Court has argued this for decades, the right to free speech. What they've come to the conclusion is, yes, we do have the right to free speech, but there are limits to it. You can't go into a crowded room or you can't go into a crowd and yell fire. It's against the law, okay? You don't have free speech rights when it comes to that. It's dangerous. It can cause people to lose their lives, okay? So free speech actually has limits, okay? So there's no reason that like the right to bear arms can't or shouldn't have limits as well. So you got to remember that like when we think about the Constitution that's outdated, because it is. It doesn't talk about the internet. It doesn't talk about, same-sex marriage. It doesn't talk about, the things that are going, it doesn't talk about women voting. It doesn't talk about women's rights. It doesn't talk about it doesn't talk about online anything. It doesn't talk about the modern society. It doesn't talk about cars. They didn't have cars back then. They didn't have planes back then. They didn't have phones back then. Think about all the things that we have today that are completely irrelevant to what they had back then. It's just a completely different world. It's a completely different world. And guess what? In 200 years from now, it's going to be again another completely different world. You can't even imagine what the world is going to be like in 200 more years from now. So this is where like you got to remember that like the Constitution it's just you can't take it for like it's not like a Bible. I mean, I get it in concept that people like, but the Constitution says this. I mean, this is my thought. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comment section. But like back then, they had muskets. It's people didn't walk into schools with assault rifles and shoot up the place. They didn't have to have police officers there. They didn't have these kind of issues. They didn't have school buses. They didn't have internet. They didn't have any of the things that we have today, which it's literally a totally different world. They didn't have airplanes. They didn't have airport security. They didn't have AR-15s. They didn't have tanks. Think about how different it is today. They didn't have nuclear bombs. It's just a totally different world. So when it comes to these type of things, you got to think a little differently. You got to think a little differently. And in fact, if you don't think a little differently, then you're basically saying that women shouldn't have the right to vote. If we go back 200 years, and if we go back 200 years, we're also saying slavery. I mean, like you got to like really realize here what 200 years ago was like. Yeah, it's not really, you got to really kind of think about how far we've come in 200 years, and we don't want to go back there. We don't want to go back there. So you also got to kind of think about how far we've come in just 50 years, you know, or 20 years, and we're not going to start taking rights away from, and I get that people are on different sides of the fence here on different things. And, even with same sex marriage, I get that some people, they're going to say, well, in the Bible, this, that, and the other thing. But personally, if somebody's happy and they want to be married, my thought is, let them be happy. I'm a Christian. I see personally nothing wrong with somebody being happy and married to whoever they want to be. It's just my personal thought. And honestly, I don't think that God's going to punish me for that. I really don't. You let me know your thought here in the comment section. But you know, honestly, that the Bible was written thousands of years ago. You know, and I personally just believe that God is ever evolving as well. And if God could speak to me right now, he'd probably say, you know what, Jimmy, I want everybody to be happy as well. So you let me know your thoughts here in the comments. But the problem here is that we're just in a different world today. We're just in a different world today, and we're gonna have a lot of votes here on this. We're gonna have a lot of votes here on this right now. And I get that a lot of people are on different sides of the fence here on a lot of things, but I just really hate to see people having their rights taken away. Whether it's same-sex marriage, women's choice, um, and I really hate to see people, children getting shot every day. I hate to see people in malls getting shot every day. Uh, it's really saddening. It's really saddening. Yeah. So, how do we make our country a safer place? How do we go forward and try to, solve these problems going forward? Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I'll have to go forward with the tax issue here in the next video because we're running out of time. I'll cover that here in the next video. But let me know your thoughts here in the comments section. But these are the issues that we're facing here as a country. And you know what? You may have a different opinion. That's totally okay. And this is honestly what I think makes us a great country. Because honestly, a lot of us have different opinions. And that's what makes us a great country, because we can have different opinions as long as we're reasonable about them. Because when we take polls, it's not like 100% of people are all like, yes, we all agree with the same opinion, or no, we all agree on this opinion. And honestly, when we look at Democrats and Republicans, a lot of them, and again, I'm not either. I consider myself an independent or a realist. So I personally think that more and more people are not just all voting, or not even voting, but all just blindly following a party one way or another. I personally think a lot more people are looking at each individual issue and just deciding for themselves, because there's a lot of things that people believe one way or the other, depending on the issue. And that's what I do. I just look at the issue and say, you know what, I believe this, that, or the other way with one party or the other based on, what it is. So, and that's what I think people should do. Just look at the issue and say, you know what, I'm not just going to, see what my party thinks of what should be right. And then I'm going to say, okay, I believe it because my party thinks that should be the answer. That's just not what I believe. You let me know your thoughts here in the comment section. But we're going to have some of these major things decided here. Remember, the Democrats and the Republicans came together to pass one gun safety bill already, like last week or two. But a lot of people think it didn't have that much in it. It didn't do a lot. They're going to vote again here this week on a new bill to potentially ban the sales of new assault rifles. We'll have to see what's going to be involved with that. if it's going to ban assault rifles for just new sales or permanently or not. I'll have to keep you up to date here on what that entails. As soon as that comes out, I will let you guys know what that is. And if there's going to be more details in that, and then they're also going to vote on the same-sex marriage issue to see if that passes. Of course, what the weird thing is on both of those, it's going to be Democrat versus Republican, and we'll have to see if some people cross over the aisle or not. And there's honestly probably going to be a lot more here this week as well. It's going to be a very busy week because there's a lot of things going on. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I will keep you up to date here with everything. Big week going on here. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to see my newest video next. And Senator Bernie Sanders, who is also an independent, says President Biden just made a big mistake. And here is that video next. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.